This is Dave Meltzer with Entrepreneurs, the Playbook, and I have the CEO and founder of Moral Code Footwear here, Mark Kohlenberg. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
I'm so excited to have you on because I wrote a book called Compassionate Capitalism. And when I meet an executive that illustrates the concept of the book of challenging yourself to not only be profitable, but to help others, I have to have them on the playbook.
Great.
More entrepreneurs need to understand that you don't necessarily have to separate making money and helping people.
Totally agree.
And you are a classic example of that. One of the other interesting things I think that's great for the playbook is that you have stuck to the same industry.
Yeah.
It's something that's very rare today.
Yeah, I know.
I think you started with Alan Edmonds 2 decades ago. Is that
a long time ago.
a long time ago? Not to age us, right?
Yeah,
And
no,
we're about
no.
the same age.
Yeah.
And you stuck in the footwear business. Now, health and beauty and footwear are two industries that I see a lot of incestuous behavior that people don't leave.
You're right.
Why do you think that is?
You know, when I got into footwear, it was by chance. You know, I honestly had no passion for footwear, and you know, it was just an accident. I knocked on John Stolenwork's door, who was the owner of Alan Edmonds at the time, and you know, he gave a kid in his 20s a shot. But I've been blessed to, you know, really be able to have a product behind me, whether it's Alan Edmonds or the Waco Group or right now with Moral Code, an extraordinary product that I can, you know, be passionate about, that I can sell, that I can promote. So that's why I've stuck with it.
And I believe, you know, life and business is about lessons.
Yeah.
And those lessons then allow us to evolve to who we are. What lessons did you learn through that great journey of working in the footwear and raising through there that led you to Moral Code?
Oh my God. You know, there have been so many, and I've had so many unusual experiences. But, you know, I think the biggest thing for me is just tenacity. You know, it's, you know, I'm actually a pretty shy person. If you would have come to me when I was at the University of Wisconsin graduating and said, you know, I'd be selling footwear for a career for 20 plus years, I would have said, you're nuts. You know, there's no way, you know, I could sell anything. You know, it's very uncomfortable doing that. But, you know, again, if you have passion about the product, if you have passion about the people, if you really know what you're doing is going to help somebody, you know, I'm 100% behind it, and it's worked for me. And the obstacles, you know, are endless. They continue to get thrown in front of you every day. But again, that tenacity just, you know, keeps you going, keeps you plowing through it. And I know that at times, you know, our competitors are weaker than we are lazier than we are, aren't as passionate as we are. You know, so I keep on plugging away, and you know, it sounds boring, but it's certainly worked.
Well, it's interesting because things sound boring. You know, my wife always says to me, "You're so lucky. You've always loved what you've done."
Yeah,
you seem like the same person.
Yeah.
Ironically, though, you and I are also shared because I worked for a company in Minnesota when I
Really?
first got out of law school, West Publishing.
Okay.
I sold legal research online
Okay,
out of law
cool.
school.
Okay.
Right, and I made a ton of money doing it. And unlike you, I was born to sell, so I
Okay.
knew I could sell.
Yeah.
But I'm a person that believes I learned to love everything I do. And I changed the whole perspective of that. You truly seem like the same type of person. What are some of the tips that you can give of how you've taken something that does appear to be monotonous and unattractive, you know, and you've learned to, like, I see you're like oozing inspiration out of what you do. How do you do that? Because a lot of kids want to learn.
You know, part of the interesting things about footwear or accessories or apparel, the fashion industry overall, is you reinvent yourself every 6 months. I get bored easily, you know, and no, truly. And, you know, I've kind of done the rodeo 3 or 4 times as an entrepreneur with startups. And, you know, this latest one is about 2 years old, but it gives you an opportunity to reinvent yourself. You know, every season, every 6 months, you get a new collection. If you fail, there's an opportunity to restart and try something new. So, you know, it's that constant change that invigorates you and gives you that energy, and frankly, also, you know, it gives your buyers or prospective customers a reason to say yes and to look at that collection and hopefully buy. So, you know, with me, it's just, you know, I just love going up to bat every single time. And, you know, again, you may strike out 9 times, but, you know, that 10th time is, you know, a game winner. And, you know, particularly for us, you know, our company right now, we have kind of 3 facets to the business. Moral Code is our direct-to-consumer you know, brand that we do online. We also do private label that really in the last 12 months with Trump and the tariffs has kind of come into our own. And we're doing a ton of private label design and development, sourcing and production for retailers and wholesalers alike as well. So, it's just being able to kind of jump from one facet of the business to another that, number one, relieves my boredom, number two, keeps me energized, and number three, it kind of keeps me at my game. Work is my life. I just keep on plugging away, and, it's really 24/7. So I love it.
That's amazing. One of the most fascinating things about the footwear industry is the advent of sneakerheads and StockX and the sneaker market. And how has that affected, or what has that done in your, experience? Do you deal in that genre?
Yeah, we certainly deal in sneakers, not that specific end of it, but I can tell you, within the last year, really it started with Goldman Sachs relaxing their dress code. I happened to be in New York when that announcement was made, meeting with a key department store in the city, and we both looked at that news, and I saw it as an opportunity. The buyer that I was with was like, oh my God, I got all this inventory right now in dress clothing.
Alan Edmonds had a heart attack.
Yeah, literally, and and it's not just the footwear; it's the belts, it's the accessories, it's the dress shirts, the ties, the sport coats. It's really everything, and overnight, that whole assortment got changed 180 degrees. So they had to pivot. We had to pivot. Sneakers make up a much greater share of our business right now than they used to. And I was literally in India 2 days ago, meeting with our product development people in our factory and planning the next season. So, moving forward, we're looking at sustainable materials. We're looking at more casual footwear. Sneakers really, it's a pivotal part of our assortment.
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw Marcus Allen years and years ago, beautiful $5,000 suit, and he had tennis shoes with white soles on them.
Yeah.
And I looked at him because he's such a good-looking guy, and he's such a class act.
Yeah.
And I said, Marcus, I'm telling you right now, from a man who has worn Alan Edmonds, Gucci, hardcore shoes,
right.
And I said, if anyone can pull this off, I'm hoping it's you, because if this can be a trend someday that I can walk around in a suit with tennis shoes, oh my gosh, this is going to be amazing.
He was ahead of the curve.
Ahead of the curve. I think he created the curve.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of which, like the cell phone industry, footwear, you have to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Your competitor is not only all the other competitors, but it's yourself.
Yeah.
Right? You have last year's Prada shoes to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah. The buzzword right now is sustainability, and it's exploded in the last 6 months. So everybody from, Everlane to Native to, Adidas, everybody's coming out with a sustainable product in footwear and accessories. And, overnight, again, it's become a buzzword. It's become a new direction. And for, really anybody under 40 years old, fast forward 4 or 5 years from now, we're really looking at entire brands being sustainable. Footwear, accessories, apparel. I don't want to say they're dirty industries, but they're complicated. Yeah. The supply chain involves so many different components from different manufacturers, and being able to trace all those components and, frankly, do a good job making things that don't end up in landfills for thousands of years. It's a responsibility we all have. So we've taken it to heart. We're working on it now. Come July of next year, we hope to be able to introduce a new collection of sustainable footwear for Moral Code as well.
That's amazing. Well, I got a great idea for Moral Code and
Let's hear it.
Because I can't believe no one's ever picked up on this, but you can make a shoebox out of water bottles.
Really?
And then the shoebox would be see-through, so people wouldn't throw it away.
Okay.
And it would protect the shoes. Not only could you have them on the retail side of it in the shoebox, you can see through it.
Okay.
But at your home, you would still keep the box and put them up on your shelves. But most importantly, all those bottles aren't going into the thing, and you can still brand it Moral Code. But I know a guy that does that in Newport Beach. I've been praying for him for 15 years.
I want the contact. Give me the contact. We'll follow up. Yeah, no, it's fascinating. So anything that you can get somebody to keep as opposed to throwing it away, even if it's recyclable, the bottom line is, you want somebody to keep it, and you don't want,
with half a billion years of life to a plastic bottle. It'll be interesting what happens over the generations.
Right.
Now, as you're looking for the future, one of the things in the playbook that a lot of people don't think about is forecasting.
Yeah.
In your business, forecasting is difficult, strategic, and essential.
Yeah.
What are some of the forecasting tips that you would give over the last 2 decades or so of how do you plan for the future?
It's particularly difficult and challenging with our private label customers. So, in a lot of it, just because, again, as I said, footwear is complicated. You might have literally 100 different components from 100 different suppliers going into a single shoe. It's not brain surgery, but it's difficult, and it takes great care and planning. The biggest thing that we have to source is raw materials. So whether it's wax canvas or leather for a shoe, it takes the longest. Once you get that nailed down, the rest of it kind of goes in order. But it's meticulous planning. It's aligning with your customers. It's really looking obviously at history and looking at trends moving forward. So, but we spend a lot of time with it. It takes a long time to plan production, to do production, and then you have time on the water as well, because most footwear is shipped via sea. So, the more you can shrink that timeline and be responsive to what's going on at retail, the better you're going to be at what you do.
And do you hire only from the footwear industry, or is it an industry, everyone's moving? I'm a lateral person.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
As an executive, I went from, internet to wireless to the handheld side with Samsung, into sports agentry, into sports marketing, then media and podcasting. Who knows where I'll be tomorrow?
Yeah.
I could
footwear,
be
of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. My COO is now the executive vice president of Vans.
Wow.
He worked for Nike before that, and Massimo, all the footwear guy.
Okay. Very cool.
On the sports side. But through that, do you see, with over 50% of the employees in America are going to be freelancers, the employment side of what you do, is the footwear industry one in which people can move laterally or work as a freelancer in?
Yeah, it certainly goes on. But, as you said a few minutes ago, once people get into footwear, a lot of people stay there. And it's easy, it's comfortable, regardless of the gender that you're in, or even the channel that you're in. Footwear's a widget. So once you know the vocabulary, once you know the nuances to it, it's very easy to stay. But I'll give you an example. Our VP of Operations, who joined us about a year ago, came from an online wine subscription service. Okay. So from an operations standpoint, it was a perfect fit. The processes were the same. He had to learn a little bit about footwear, but at the end of the day, he's been doing a good job for us.
Yeah, it seems like on the marketing side, if you have a digital experience and situational knowledge, that you can handle the transition.
Yeah.
On the sales side, though.
On the sales side, it's relationships, and you're only
knowledge of the products,
right? And frankly, knowledge of your customer's product too, and business. So there, it certainly helps. I've seen people transition from apparel or from accessories, from women's to men, from kids to men. That's certainly evident. But you kind of have to know the nuances and the language of the business, and if not, it just you're kind of sending a broadcast out there that you're not as skilled as you should be, and people don't have confidence. So it works. But nowadays, I just met with a customer a couple of weeks ago that the buyers were also product developers. Nobody on the retail side or the wholesale side has bandwidth anymore. Everybody's trying to do 10 different things, at the same time. So the more you can take off your plate, if you're selling them something, if you're offering to help them with sourcing or product development, the better. And you're just solving problems for them at the end of the day.
Amazing. Now, my dad told me, if you don't like someone, pray for overhead and employees. And make it as a compliment. I always say, man, I hope your business grows. Man, you have a huge office with tons of employees. Guys, like, thank you.
Yeah.
It's like, my wife's like, you didn't like that guy? I'm like, no. But employees have changed over the years.
Yeah.
You and I both managed tons of people over the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most significant change in the workforce as far as values or attitude goes?
At least in my experience, the biggest thing right now is working remotely. We've hired for a couple of positions. Within the last year, it's probably the number one or number two question that I get, because we're a startup. There's a degree of flexibility. It certainly wasn't even there a few years ago, but for our circumstances, being a startup, wanting to establish that culture, and frankly that collaboration as well, it's challenging. You need a degree of face time in the office, just as uniquely in the footwear business. It's also very strange. I still lug around 2 huge sample cases wherever I go, filled with physical samples of shoes. So the advent of using imagery or video or whatever to show and sell product, it really hasn't reached the footwear industry. The bottom line is you got to have a physical product in front of a buyer to get them to buy. So, employees now, they're also more mobile. We don't see the commitment that we saw years ago, and people come and go as they please. But it's also given us, as I said before, exposure to different industries and, frankly, different ways of doing things that, you just don't become pigeonholed like you used to.
Yeah, you have that cross-pollination and
Right.
knowledge that does create really cool stuff.
Different perspective of looking at things. And,
Yeah.
and it really is helpful at times. You just have to keep your mind open.
Yeah, exactly, and that's how we last. Last question. You've been in the same industry as a leader. You have a sustainable company. It
Yeah.
has truly a moral compass. Thus the moral
code.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And moving forward, though, we're getting older. That's one thing we can't.
I have more gray hair than you do.
Yeah, I got less hair, but I always think as we get kind of into the situation where we're experienced enough to bring purpose and pride and sustainability and real value to a normal industry,
Right.
traditional industry of profitability, we bring even more to it, purpose and profitability. What do you think your legacy will be as you kind of curve out your career from here? You must be thinking about, okay, there's more of a purpose to what I do, and I want, when they look back on where I'm at, Mark Kohlenberg,
Yeah.
they're going to say, oh, you know what, that guy really brought in the vegan leather or whatever. What is it?
I can assure you it's not going to be vegan leather. But, once I hit 50, I just started looking at things a little differently. And it wasn't all about me. It wasn't about my success. But, I get contacted probably every week, I'm sure you do as well, from people either wanting an internship, meet you for coffee, they help finding a job. I used to be so busy, I just would ignore those things. But I got to tell you, the last many years, I typically always respond. I'll meet them for coffee. I help a lot of people find jobs. And I've two young adult children that I'm trying to, kind of instill that same, sense of purpose to and sense of values. So I think it's critically important. When I was in my 20s, it was everybody for themselves. There was nobody out there to help you, and you really had a lot of doors slammed in your face. But just last night, I flew in here last night. I got an email from somebody at a former competitor just asking me to make some factory introductions for her, which I gladly did. Hammered them out, and she's on her way. But if I can help somebody kind of dot the I and cross the T and avoid a lot of heartache and blocked channels. It's paying it forward. Sounds like a cliche, but it's really worth it, and I'd love to leave that legacy.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Mark Kohlenberg, CEO and founder of Moral Code Footwear, personally and professionally being kind to his future self by providing value and being of service. Don't forget, best thing you can do is ask for help. There's a lot of older guys like Mark and I. We're just living to give that help, so don't be afraid to ask for it. Truly ask for help. This is Dave Meltzer with Entrepreneurs, The Playbook.